This is Grace Notes. I'm Alan Button, and our guest today is Suzy Lutz. Suzy is the founder and executive director of an organization called Continuing the Mission. Suzy, welcome.
Thank you very much.
If we could, Suzy, before we get into how it is you spend most of your time these days, tell us a little bit about your background, particularly your connection with the military.
My husband has just retired with 30 years of service in the Army and Special Forces, and we raised two young boys who are now in their 20s while he was deploying, and he's a physician in the Army, and so we've been in the Fort Bragg area for 20 years, but the military has been just a part of our whole marriage.
I understand from our conversation before we came into the studio that you and your husband actually are high school sweethearts.
We are, but don't tell anybody. It's embarrassing.
You go back a long way.
We do go back a long way, yeah. So we've had a very rich life. We've known each other for a long time, and very happy to be settled now in North Carolina.
But went to college in different places.
We did, yes. He went to Davidson here in North Carolina, and I went to Florida State. So yes, those long-distance relationships can work.
Very good. Tell us about the deployments that you've been a part of through your husband.
Right. So Robert's done many deployments. I think he counted up the days at one point, and I don't even remember the number, but we've learned as a military family to partner up with other families. They've been our support. Our church has been our support. Our boys are very much used to staying to the schedule. You keep moving forward, and dad comes, dad goes, and when he's here, it's awesome. And when he's not, we just keep doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Did he spend time in the Middle East?
He did, yes.
Whereabouts?
He was in Afghanistan and Iraq. And in fact, when Continuing the Mission began, he was on his almost final deployment, maybe second to last deployment. And he was fooling around drawing logos while he was deployed.
For the organization?
For the organization, yes.
Well, tell us just briefly what Continuing the Mission is. It certainly has, by its title, communicates that it continues your experience with the military. Absolutely.
So Continuing the Mission provides service dogs to veterans with post-traumatic stress. And both of us, when we turned 50, decided we really wanted to do something to give back to the veteran community. My husband Robert's been doing something for 30 years. He's been a physician. He's been taking care of soldiers, taking care of veterans, taking care of their families. But I wanted to do something also. So we have both shared a love of dogs through our whole marriage. And I've recreationally trained dogs, a little obedience, agility, taught some household obedience classes. But I saw the power of what a dog can do for someone. I met a young woman who had a little puppy named Carter, and she had lost her husband, and her mom and dad came to class with her every week. And I watched her transform from a quiet, shy person who obviously was grieving her husband to this very animated person who's out in the public all the time doing things for veterans at military functions. And she just blossomed, and it was with the help of this little dog, Carter. So I just got a wild hair at 50 that maybe I could provide dogs to veterans that would help them reclaim their lives. And so that's how Continuing the Mission started.
You've identified a song that is particularly meaningful to you, and I think it fits in here. Have You Forgotten by Daryl Worley. Tell us about it.
It's very meaningful to me because it reminds us and strikes powerful images. And many of us were not around for World War I and World War II. But the recent conflicts have provided experiences for our veterans and our active duty that most of us we can't relate to, but we sure can relate to what happened on 9/11. For me, it reminds me that our veterans have experienced things overseas, done things for our country, and we can't forget them. We can't forget what they've done for us, what they've experienced, and we need to help them come back and continue their lives. And that's not always easy for people. Some people it's easier, but I want to be able to help people to do that, to move past those experiences and to have wonderful, awesome lives again.
You mentioned 9/11. Doing the math here in my head, that was just about, I guess, the middle of your husband's and yours, your experience in the Army.
Right, and probably the most meaningful in some ways. And so the day 9/11 happened, I was at work and I got a call. I went to school and picked my boys up as usual. Got a call from Robert. Fort Bragg's locked down. Nobody's going home. And that was the start of it. And none of us knew what was going to happen, but those were their jobs, and they had to follow through. And so as families, we all just kind of hunkered down together and were there for each other to help each other. And those families are still very much part of our lives now. Some of those families are involved in continuing the mission. When you go through experiences together, when you go through adverse times together, those are bonding experiences. And when you share those experiences, you create relationships.
Well, going back to your point of remembering the veterans, let's hear the song, Have You Forgotten by Daryl Worley. That was Have You Forgotten by Daryl Worley. If you're just joining us, our guest today is Suzy Lutz, the founder and director of Continuing the Mission. Suzy, a big part of your life now, and I guess for at least the last 25 or 30 years, has been dogs. Did you grow up with dogs?
I did, yes. Always had a dog since I was a little girl.
So the canine world is not new to you.
No, it's not. And I'm happy to share it with other people.
Tell us a bit more about what Continuing the Mission does specifically and what your role in it is.
Sure. So we are providing service dogs to our veterans with post-traumatic stress and any other injuries that they might have incurred. These dogs help people get back out. They are a tool to be used in therapy, to try to face situations that are challenging and hard. We have a very individualized society. We're all on our phones, our laptops, our computers. It's difficult, I think, for people to come back from intense experiences and then just go back to life like everything is the same. It's not the same anymore. And the dogs are intended to provide a partner to forge forward in life, to find maybe not the same life, but a new life. They have public access. They can go everywhere with their veterans. And so they're never by themselves. They're never alone. They always have that partner who, as the relationship and bond grows, is going to begin to anticipate what they need. Maybe they just need them to lean against them as they walk through a crowd. Maybe they need them to rest the weight of their head on their leg to calm them when they feel anxious. But whatever they need, that dog is there to provide that for them so that they can move forward.
You mentioned post-traumatic stress. That's something that we've heard a lot about in the news the last number of years. Is that a prerequisite to participation in Continuing the Mission?
Yes, that is true. That is one of our eligibility criteria, that our veteran have post-traumatic stress. And that then is a medically diagnosable condition. That is correct, yes.
And what exactly are the manifestations of post-traumatic stress, or how does it manifest itself?
I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that people can have anxiety attacks in public. They can have physical manifestations, sweating, increased heart rate, being anxious about their surroundings or situations. They can have trouble sleeping. And having trouble sleeping can be challenging for a spouse. Spouses worry. Maybe the veteran is up and down all night. And in fact, I have had a spouse say to me, I just worry. I don't know what to do to help. Now this veteran's got somebody who's going to get up with him in the night, or her, and is going to be there. And
the dog.
Yes. Uh-huh. And maybe this is good for the relationship and the marriage, because now it's somebody else is going to help and take care of it. And it doesn't always fall on the spouse, who maybe has to get up and go to work first thing in the morning, or has, something else. It's an aid to help manage and to help the veteran feel like they're more in charge of their life. They're not dependent on other people all the time. They can do it themselves.
In terms of your role with continuing the mission, I gather you're really hands-on. You're very involved.
I love all aspects of it, and I tell people I have the best job in the world and it's a non-paid job. It is the best job in the world because I see all parts of it. I see the opportunity when the dog walks in the door and meets their veteran for the first time, and it's magic. It's magic how they know, this is my person. I've been trained for this job, and now I'm going to go do it. And it's such a good feeling. It's great to work with the veteran after they receive the dog and see how they've improved. To hear them say, hey, I took my wife out to dinner. That was great. That makes me feel so good. And then I get to work with foster families who foster the dogs and train them and take care of them while they're growing up. And many of them are veterans. And to have someone say to me, this is the best thing my husband's ever done. This has been so good for him. That is really great. And know that these are people who want to help other veterans because they get it. They know what it's like. And then to have these precious puppies that are donated from Project to Heal, that are purpose-bred labs with a great health history and the right temperament, and to see how when we have them out in public, they just brighten people's days. And I had an older dog, actually, Walker, in Chapel Hill training Monday, and met a lovely couple in the mall, and the gentleman was pushing his wife in a wheelchair, and they stopped and chatted with Walker and I for a few minutes, and he learned a really good trick, and he'll wave to people. And so as we were parting ways, I said, Walker, wave and say goodbye, and he lifted his paw and waved, and the smiles that I got back were wonderful. So continuing the mission, we hope to touch many lives, not just our veterans, especially our veterans, but lots of other people too.
The way you've described what continuing the mission is and what your role is, it makes it sound like it's very much a family affair. The ripple effects are broad.
It definitely is. I'm so proud of my family and so honored that they've taken the cause up, and everybody's involved. Our oldest son and his girlfriend are fostering a puppy from Project to Heal, doing a great job. His name is Nova. And my other son has been at all the functions, and he was the one setting up the booth Veterans Day at the parade at 5:30 in the morning because I was somewhere else doing something. And of course, my husband, Robert, who's very, very busy with what he's doing right now, starting the next part of his life.
I understand, by the way, he is involved with a fellowship in sports medicine.
He is. He's
Duke.
He's doing a fellowship in sports medicine at Duke, and he's committing his life to helping athletes. He's been working on soldiers and veterans his whole career, so this is just an extension of that. But he's probably my biggest champion. He reviews the applications, is always there to answer questions, direct me, has been very patient when we have many extra dogs in the house. Frequently comes home on the weekend and will say, how many do we have this weekend? And we always have some extras because some foster's out of town or somebody's got a vet appointment. He's been just a wonderful sport about it.
This next song that you've identified, You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman, how does that fit in? Why is that meaningful here?
It's very meaningful. We're providing this friend to march into the next phase of life for our veterans. And this buddy, this pal who's ready to be their champion and to understand, to always be there. And as we all know, dogs are so faithful, and they're touching souls and helping people. And I just love this song.
Let's hear it. You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman. That was You've Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman. And our guest today is Suzy Lutz. Suzy, speaking of that song, I understand that, and I guess I I'm supposed to recall this, that it was the theme song in Toy Story.
Yes, one of my boys' favorites.
So you've got the family connection to that song, too.
That's right.
Yeah, great song. If you would, Suzy, tell us a little bit more about the specifics of the commands that you train dogs to obey, the dogs in continuing the mission.
Sure. So we're not limited. We like to think that we have the ability, and we do, to specifically gear a dog's training to that individual veteran's needs. But the 5 basic tasks that we're training are lights. So dogs can turn lights on and off, which if you're having bad dreams, you can have your dog turn the light on for you.
So they actually reach up and flip the switch?
They can go to the light switch and flip it up, yes.
Uh-huh.
If you're anxious about entering a dark home, you can send your dog in ahead of you to turn the lights on. They have a bring task where they can pick up and bring anything to you, which is helpful if you had some kind of physical disability as well. They have 3 sort of comfort tasks. The first is block, and that's to stand passively in front of their veteran to take up space, to create a feeling of ease when maybe there's a lot going on in front of the veteran.
A sense of security.
A sense of security and well-being. It's not meant to be protective in any way. It's just they're meant to take up space. And the same with watch, which is the same command but from behind. So if the veteran needs to put their attention on something in front of them, but there's a lot going on behind them, they can ask the dog to stand watch. And the dog will stand behind them while they do whatever they need to do. Again, they might feel the brush of the dog up against the back of them, just that comfort to know somebody's there. He's got my back.
Like standing in line at Walmart.
Absolutely. Yes. Like something that's easy for most of us, put our card in or pass money, but maybe hard for somebody else, to turn their back away from a lot of activity. And then the 5th is a rest command. It's my favorite. And it's the dog comes, and since we're using labs, most of you know they've got big, heavy, blocky heads, and they put their head on the veteran's leg and just apply the pressure, the weight of their head, and it's very calming. Anxiety, nervousness, panic attacks are all very common, and having an ability to calm yourself, asking your dog to put your head there and just breathe. It's very calming, and I can attest to this as I just took one of our dogs who's going to be paired this summer, hopefully with a veteran, to the mall in Chapel Hill. We were out training, and I sat down for a while. We were working on something else, and I was feeling a little anxious about some other details in life, and I asked him to rest his head. I said, Walker, rest, and he stood up, and he put his head on my leg, and then he just looked at me with those big, soft brown eyes, and I felt the weight of his head on my leg. And I can tell you, I felt so much better. Could have stayed there all day.
I think anybody who's had a dog around the house knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
And studies, of course, have indicated with respect to those who are ill or elderly that the presence and companionship of a dog can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. They're so smart, and they really over time can learn to anticipate what we need so that we don't even have to ask for it a lot. And that's what will happen with these dogs. We also have the ability to train for specific things. The second dog that we placed was trained to wear a handle, similar to the ones that you see on the guiding eye dogs. His veteran had some nerve damage in a leg and was unsteady at times. And so he was trained to wear that handle so that if he just needed a little extra help, his leg got tired, he could hang on to that handle for balance.
Speaking of the ripple effects of what continuing the mission does, I understand that you have training that has occurred substantially beyond your own personal involvement.
Yes, this is not about me at all. I've simply been a catalyst to grow this great network, or even better, family of people, all with the same goals to help our veterans. We have foster families who take these puppies in at 8 or 10 weeks, and they have to give them up, at a year and a half or 2 years old. And it's hard. but they're willing to do that for our veterans. And they come to training every week. They put their heart, they put their time, sometimes their financial resources into these dogs to help them be ready for their ultimate job. And we couldn't do it without the community.
And you've got prisoners involved, too.
We do, yes. The New Leash on Life program at the Rutherford Correctional Facility takes our dogs for 8-week cycles every 2 months, and each dog will complete 2 cycles. And I tell you what, the inmates, I like to call them the guys, do a great job with these dogs. And graduation days is one of my favorite days. I love to go and see what new things the dogs have learned, how they've bonded with these trainers. I like to talk to the trainers, and it's always hard when it's time to take the dog away, but we're leaving another 2 for them. But they put so much into the dogs, and they'll ask, they want to know when I come back, how is such and such doing? And so I enjoy being able to update them on the 2 dogs we've placed. Philippe and Benji are doing great with their veterans, and because of what you've done, you've changed a life.
Such a positive experience for the inmates.
Absolutely.
You've identified another song for us, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. Why is that special to you?
It's special because it's my hope that we're going to provide a wonderful world for these veterans. And it's, I'm not naive enough to think everything will be perfect, but I know that this dog is going to help them forge on, find a new path, reclaim their lives. And that's happy.
Suzy, if people are interested in learning more about continuing the mission and perhaps are interested in volunteering or donating,
absolutely.
How can they do that?
www.continuingthemission.org. We've got information about helping. We love to have people in the community help. Fosters. We've got an application online that you can fill out if you're interested in doing that. We have events, so come out to our events. We would love that.
You have, in fact, a golf tournament coming up. Is that right?
Yes, we do. We have a golf tournament silent auction dinner at the Whispering Pines Country Club, Saturday, February 24th. Our dogs are going to be out there to greet people. Should be a lot of fun. And if you're interested, you can register there on our website.
Very good. And the address again is continuingthemission.org?
Yes.
Well, Suzy, it's been a treat having you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Let's go out with Louis Armstrong. What a Wonderful World.
I see trees of green.
You've been listening to Grace Notes, a special program here on Life 103.1 featuring people who may be relatively unknown, but who meet life's challenges in ways that brighten the lives of those around them. Our producer is Christina Dolan. I'm Alan Button, and we invite you to join all of us here at the station again next Friday at 5:30 for Grace Notes on Life 103.1.